guys, welcome to today's video. Today is another drugstore special thanks to Tamara from Tamara Timeless Beauty. She had brought to me a couple of foundations that she was very interested in hearing my opinion on. So these are on Lend, and I've got to finish going through all this stuff so I can send them back. But today we're going to take a look at the L'Oreal Perfect Serum Foundation, the ColourPop Tinted Moisturizer, and the Sephora Best Skin Ever. And we're going to do a comparison to this Elf concealer to my Clinique concealer because these puppies are exactly the same. And this will be in the second video or the second foundation, which is the ColourPop if you're looking for that. Timestamps down below if you want to jump around. Okay by me, just stay. As a matter of fact, while I'm talking to you, I'd appreciate it if you would give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my video. It signals to YouTube to kind of push my video out there so I can find new viewers. I'd really appreciate that. And before we get started with some swatches, I just want to talk about my skin, which will help you decide if what I'm saying is going to be meaningful to you. If you have oily skin, you really have to take it with a couple of grains of salt. And if you have dry skin, yeah, I might have something to say. My skin is dry. I'm 59 years old. My skin is not like parched. So if I wash my face and don't put on anything, at first it feels dry as I start to get the transepidermal evaporation. But after an hour or so, it'll settle in, it'll feel soft, it won't feel dry to the touch. But I don't produce oils and ceramides and hyaluronic acid and collagen and elastin and all those great things that keep skin plump and youthful looking. I don't produce those so much anymore. So I put a lot of them on my face. And I use a lot of toners, essences, and then a light moisturizer, and then a heavier moisturizer to lock it all in. I will put my skincare routine right here so you can take a look, but I really buffer my skin well and try to hydrate it and moisturize it nicely. And I always finish, of course, with a sunscreen. I have a million sunscreens, so every day is a little bit different. But they are sunscreens I chose partially because they don't feel heavy or greasy and they work well with cosmetic products. So there's some very basics for you. And now I hope that's it. I forgot to shoot this intro because when I started it, it was morning, my head was blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what, I'll shoot an intro later. And I was editing it last night. No intro. So here we go. Let's get started. I don't know what is up with me today, you guys. I knocked over my pencils. I've almost knocked over my mirror. This place is tragically messy. So before we get started with today, I just want to do a little bit of a color swatch situation for you. Color swatch. This is the Charlotte Tilbury, which is a very good shade for me. This is the ColourPop, which looks pretty orangey in comparison. This is the Age Perfect from L'Oreal, and these two are the Sephora Best Skin Ever. So I think these colors are going to be very hard for me. Today I want to not look scary, so I'm going to go in with the Age Perfect. I have the color 25 Cream Beige, and they say there is full spectrum SPF 50 in this and antioxidants, and that it is a serum foundation, radiant, meaning shiny. I already have a lot of shine. I've done my skincare, and it's a squeezy tube. I'm going to put it in the palm of my hand. I normally wouldn't, but I have swatches on this side. And it's liquidy, but it's not incredibly runny. And I don't know, fingers on this side. There is a slight heft to this, in the same way that the Charlotte Tilbury has a little bit of a heft to it, but it's not as hefty as that. And I'm not expecting much coverage from this. It's more about evening the skin tone, I think. You know, I was going to do a brush on the other side, but I think this is better with the fingers. There's hardly any difference. When I'm looking in the mirror, hardly any difference. when I look in my monitor right here, I'm like, okay, I can see that it's toned down the redness. So let's just do the other side. And again, I'm not going to do 3-day wear tests on these because they take a lot of time. And I do need to send this back to her. It plays well with my sunscreens, always a good thing. And it blends nicely. It's just, it's not a serum foundation. A serum foundation doesn't have that kind of hefty thing going on here. That a little bit of, yeah, weight to it. It is something I think would be very comfortable all day long. It's very comfortable right now, and it's something that evens out the skin tone, but you're not going to get that more perfected, boy, your skin is awesome kind of look out of it. I don't think. It's just like a little something. So I want this to set up, and then we'll come back and do some powder, I guess, because that's the one thing I wonder about. It's so much going on, I'm not sure if it's going to set. And yeah, I'm going to do my eyes and be right back. Alright, I am back. I am also doing a video of eyeshadow palettes that Tamara brought here for me to try, and today I'm doing Coffee to Glow. Yeah, I did use my Lancome under my eyes, and I find that when you have light coverage like this, going for a fuller coverage concealer, which is the only kind of concealer I have, looks weird. It doesn't really mesh, because I feel like concentrated coverage here and just sheer hardly anything everywhere else. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's go in with the Kosas powder to knock back some of this shine, because it's a little much. And by the way, I was feeling a little bit of the tingling thing. It's beginning to abate, and it could be because, you know, I never thought about this until that big brouhaha in the last couple of months about mixing a chemical with a mineral, and I can't remember which it was exactly, but I started to think, well, if it's this particular chemical degrades, or they say makes it toxic on your skin, whatever, then we really have to be careful about foundations that have sunscreen in them, because most foundations that have sunscreen have chemical. So if you know you're wearing a sunscreen that has a chemical SPF in it, then that day you would certainly want to wear a chemical sunscreen. I usually don't do my nose because I like that sheen, but I don't know, I just feel the need to do it. And I'm getting that itchy feeling again. But I think it looks a lot prettier. This is the new Dior blush. It's just a pretty pink. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing shocking, it's just pretty pink, and I guess I'm in the mood for it. A little bit of drag. And mind you, I put on the eyes. I was away from the camera for a solid 15 minutes. So this stays pretty wet. Not horrible drag, but there's definitely some drag. And I thought we'd go in with the Victoria Beckham bronzer. Very, very minor. And where I powdered, there wasn't any issue at all. So that's, you know, hopefully to be expected. And this is almost the final look. I want to put on a little bit of lip. She only sent me that one BK Beauty lipstick and several of the liners, but the liners are really kind of bright, all kind of pink. There was one kind of brown. So this one is called Warm Spice. Let's see what happens. I think it's a perfectly lovely color. I feel that it's a little too dark for what I want, so I am going to put sesame, the Bite Sesame, on top, because this is really going quite fall. There. Helps it out a little bit. So there we have the complexion product, And I feel like it's a teeny bit too yellow on me, and I feel like it's not a lot of coverage. I think for a lot of women, this is the perfect just throw it on. Even out your skin tone just a little bit. It's not going to dry your skin out because it has that cushy nature to it. And yeah, I think it suits a purpose, you know. It's not for me, that's not my style necessarily, and I feel like the color is a little bit off, but once you powder it, you can see the sheen is coming back, but it's not as shiny. If you are someone who either you don't like a lot of coverage or you have nothing to cover, so if you're like 18 and you have perfect skin, this might be a little something something. Do not use a product like this as your sunscreen. Put it on top of your sunscreen. And yeah, so I will let you know when I come back tomorrow for the next foundation, how this wore and what it felt like. I don't think this will be something that's long lasting, but on the other hand, it gives you so little coverage, it's not like you're going to see it, one would think, break up on your skin, and you're not going to see it get messy. That's what I would think. So until tomorrow. Alright you guys, today is going to be day 2 of Drugstore foundation, but first let's talk about the Age Perfect. The Age Perfect is a serum foundation. They're calling it a serum foundation, but it doesn't feel like a serum foundation. I have one, and this is not like that. It does feel a little bit like the Charlotte Tilbury, which I have seen somebody say that this is a dupe for this. I'm going to say, no, it's not. It's really not. This is more viscous, it has more of a thickness to it, and this has 100% more coverage than this one. This really is a tint, and it doesn't cover a lot. If you have things to cover, you're not going to like it. It looked beautiful all day. I will say using the Kosas powder was probably not the right idea because in certain lights I could see the differentiation of where the powder was, because the Kosas powder does have color to it as opposed to my By Terry powder. If you have a perfect match, or if you powder all over your face, you're not going to see that. But I could see that. I thought it looked very nice all day. Once all the makeup was applied, you couldn't really tell that I wasn't getting coverage, and it was comfortable. So this is a nice option if you don't need a lot of coverage on my skin type. And again, my skin type, things don't really break down or disappear on me. If you're one of those people where that does happen, I'm not sure this will work for you because of that thick, cushy nature to it. Okay, so today we're taking a look at Pretty Fresh, which I don't have my glasses, but it is hyaluronic acid tinted moisturizer. This comes in 21 colors, and I kind of don't think this color is going to work for me. It's light, 8N. It comes in a pump, and N should mean neutral, and it moves a little bit. So it appears to be a little bit peachy on my hand, and it has that same kind of cushiony feeling that the Age Perfect has and the Charlotte Tilbury has. And of course I've already done my sunscreen and skincare, and that's been sitting on my face for about 15 minutes, so it's all set up. And I feel like I'm actually getting zero coverage from this. Zero. So that's interesting. I was talking to Tamara the other day, and she thought that this had more coverage than the L'Oreal product. I'd say they're very similar in that there's nothing going on here. I can still see the redness, 100%. Okay, so I guess we're going to see if it builds at all. So that was one pump all over the face, and let's just see what happens. I mean, truly, this seems to be like another one that is for people who don't have anything to cover. And because of the thick nature to it, it's not something you really want to build a lot. You can try a second layer like I am, but I think you're going to probably get into cakey land pretty quick. Not that it has something about it that would be cakey, but just because you'd have to put so much on, if that makes sense. Because there's not much pigment in this. Which, on the one hand, doesn't matter if you have a good shade because there's not much pigment. But on the other hand, I mean, you do want to look a little better. I think it built up a little bit. And this might be something, if you have deep laugh lines, it looks like it's going to settle there. It feels comfortable. It feels a lot like the Age Perfect. A lot. So I do want this to set up for just a little bit before I put on anything else. You know, give it a chance to adhere to the skin. But I just want to talk just a second about something that you may or may not be aware of. There's not a lot of manufacturers of makeup in the world. So obviously, given that there's not that many manufacturers, many brands go to the same manufacturer. And the manufacturer owns your formula. So they can or they cannot also produce something. So if you are a creator of makeup, you go to a lab/manufacturer and you say, I want to do a foundation. They will present you with foundations they already have, which are already out there on the market under different names. And you could say, oh yeah, I like that. They just have to tweak one little thing. Let's put some hyaluronic acid in it. And it's pretty much the same thing. There are companies that will do their own foundations, certainly, but I'm not in the makeup business, but I have read a lot about it. And as far as I can tell, there is a possibility that these two brands are going to the same manufacturer and that they are the same thing. It's just that they have different names, and there's a lot more product in this one than this one. So let's say they are, because neither of them give good coverage. They have the very, very similar feeling. This is 43 milligrams and this is 12 milligrams. 43 milligrams, 12 milligrams, so 4 times as much product. Assuming that these are actually kind of the same thing, which they feel very much like the same thing, and they don't offer the coverage that this does. I feel like this color is pretty good on me, actually. It's a little bit peachy, but it does look color-wise like my skin. So that is a good thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my eyes and come back and we'll put on some powder products and see how that works, and put on some cream products. Now another thing that Tamara sent me is this concealer from Elf, which looks a lot like this concealer from Clinique, and this is something Lisa Eldridge wore a lot, and so I got it because of that. But now that I'm using these two foundations that don't have a lot of coverage, I find that my regular under eye concealer looks heavy and awkward, so I wanted to give these a try. This is the Clinique, and this is just the same thing. Oh, but this color is a little bit darker. And this is the Elf. So I think I'm just going to do one on each side, even though the colors are a little different. I just want to see how they behave. Now, the Clinique, it will just give you a little lightness in the area. It's kind of like Touche Éclat from YSL, which was, you know, a huge, huge hit. It imparts more lightness than anything else, in other words. Well, that goes in actually seamless with this kind of foundation. So there's no awkwardness like sheer coverage, and then boom, right under your eyes, something heavier and something with more coverage. This actually works very well, and probably going to be a better color than my Clinique. But I just want to see how they perform. This is the Elf, this is the Clinique. They're very similar. And so far, it really seems like these products are very, very similar. I don't know. It's, you know, it's hard to give an evaluation because the color is different. Because I'm feeling like I'm getting a little more coverage from the Clinique. but this color is better. Now, see, I'm going to go over it with the Elf just to kind of even up the color, because I don't like it when the color is too light. Gee, when you put on a lot, 2 layers, it actually does give you decent coverage, but eeks, I'm going to try to even it up. So right off the bat, without wearing this for hours and hours, I would say that these 2 products, super, super, super similar. Alright, so a little bit of Beauty Blender under the eyes, and it's taken off that excess. It's still a little too light. I preferred the color from Elf for this foundation, but I think what I could do, if I were to do this again, is go on with the Elf and then do a little bit of the brighter Clinique right in here, like an inner corner highlight, but with the concealer instead. Now, I don't feel like I'm too shiny. There's shine, but I don't feel like it's too much. I do want to try a regular powder, but first I'm going to just say, you know what, not too shiny, but I wanted a little bronzer. Victoria Beckham. Since I put on this foundation, I've done my eyes and I've done my under eyes, and yet there's a teeny bit of pull. So it's not setting up, and I feel like it's getting my brush dirty. But what's interesting, these are squirrel, and therefore they're a lot less dense or a lot less stiff than goat. And I wonder if I had a goat brush, would it be moving the foundation? Would there be more drag? Because this one, really super soft. Just because the Clé de Peau, I always have this out, and this room is all, it's a mess. I needed to clean this before Tamara came. I needed to clean it, and I did a little bit. But after she left, I started going through things. I'm like, oh, maybe I want to change where this is and change where that is. And it's just, it's frightening. So we're just going with what I have. And I want to see if it's lifted off the foundation. It's hard to tell because the foundation doesn't have that much coverage, but it looks like everything's fine. And the Makeup by Mario, just because it's here, again, really? Actually, this is going on nicely. Better than the bronzer. So maybe it's a little more absorbed on my cheeks. I don't want to over blush myself. Let's go in with some powder. We're going to go in with the By Terry. And the reason, you guys, that I'm doing the powders last is because not everybody will want to powder their face, and we want to see how these other products go on. And I'm not doing a 3-day wear test on these. Yeah, it's interesting. I really don't feel like I need it. So this is not as shiny as the Age Perfect. Let me just do some mascara and brows and a lip for a final look. I didn't even bother with mascara. The temperature is rising and I feel like I'm just about to start sweating. But before I start to sweat, let's just say it looks very nice powdered. Again, not a lot of coverage, but I'm going to pull in right here. I look poreless on the cheeks and on the forehead. So it looks very, very pretty with the By Terry powder. I don't know how long I will stay this matte, but it's almost like a matte kind of look. And I think it looks great. It's just not my thing because I want a little bit more coverage, you know what I mean? But if I wanted something like that, I really like this, and I think it's a better deal than the Age Perfect. But the Age Perfect also looked great. So for tomorrow, we're going to do the Sephora, best skin ever. And I will let you know how this one wore. It's going to be hot, so it's going to have a little bit different test than this one did. And that's it. Alright, you guys, today is the final day, but before we get into the foundation we're going to put on, let's just review the ColourPop. Not a lot of coverage, I mean, barely any coverage. I think it's very, very similar to this one, but there's more product here. I did feel a little dry yesterday, but I'm not sure if it's this or if it's the fact that it is bone dry outside and quite warm. So I would say if you have dry skin, you definitely want to moisturize well. This might work for oily skin? Maybe. Again, I can't say because it could just be my skin. And it wasn't dry in an uncomfortable way. It was just as the day wore on, to the touch I could feel, and it didn't feel dry, but my skin itself had a little bit of a dry feeling. Also, when I looked in a 10X, I have new readers, which I'm going to do a video on these readers that I got, because I got 3 pairs of really fun readers, but they touch my cheek. And when I looked in my 10X, at the end of the day, I saw that it kind of gathered where the frame was touching my cheek. Probably not something a normal person would see, probably not a big deal, but if you like a light coverage, this is probably a better deal than this one, but they're very, very, very similar. So today we're going to do a favorite of Angie, Best Skin Ever from Sephora, and there are 2 colors here. When Tamara pulled these out, I thought, oh my god, they look so gray. But I think this bottle is not only frosted, but there's a grayness to it. So don't let the bottle scare you. And I'm just going to do a couple of swatches. This is 22.5N and this is 21P, which sometimes means pink, but I think it might mean peach. Neither of them look like excellent ideas for me. Well, let's try the neutral first. Let's do the neutral. And this has that same kind of feeling, like there's a viscosity, a thickness to it as the other 2. So I can kind of see, oh, it's scented. And you know what? I don't think the other 2 were scented, or I would have noticed it. It's like a clean skincare scent. It's not floral or fruity, thankfully. And this one appears to actually have some nice coverage. Not a bad color. It has that same kind of comforting feeling as the other 2, which makes sense, but we'll see, you know, how it wears. This is a really good shade, I think. I generally don't test things that Angie likes because her preferences are very, very different than mine. And, you know, I'm kind of sure I'm not going to like it. As far as Tamara goes, our skin types are very similar, and I think we have a very similar kind of preference. So this I kind of like. I'm going to build it a little bit, just the teeniest bit on my cheek, and just see how this builds. Obliterate anything. You know what? I haven't done a cream bronzer in a long, long time, so I'm going to do the Tarte cream. And just a little toasting. Seems to be blending in just fine. No problems. This is Loyal from Hourglass, and it's a nice little neutral peachy color, and I remember when I got it I thought, I don't have anything like this. I want to, you know, expand my blush range. So I think I will want to go with something a little more pink over it in a powder, but let's see how this works. I don't think it's lifted off. Yeah, I think it's doing pretty good. Not bad at all. I'm going to stop the camera, do some eyes, do some brows, let this have a little bit of an opportunity to set up before I go in with more powder. Alright, I'm back. I will list below what I've done, but it's the Mini Gold and this green liner from Charlotte Tilbury, and did my brows and some mascara, and this feels like it's not set. I think it's going to feel that way because of the consistency of the foundation. So I thought we'd go in with a different blush color because I've been doing the same blush for a little bit now, and I'm going to pull the Cerats out. And I'm going to go with this here, which is, I think it's called Cantaloupe. Goes on like a dream. I'm not too sure about the color story I'm doing because I'm wearing kind of fall-like colors because I know it's still cold everywhere but here. I definitely want a little bit of pink, so I'm just going to mix these two, which is Bar a Papa and Angelique. And do a pop of pink, which for me just kind of brings life to my face. But went on without any problem at all. There was no skipping, there was no pulling. So even though it feels to the touch like it's not set, it's fine. And let's see, what other powders can we do? Let's do face powder. I don't feel that I need face powder. There's a sheen, but it's not too sheeny. But I am always kind of happy with how when I put on powder, it smooths out my skin and looks me look kind of poreless. Who wouldn't appreciate that? So my By Terry powder, I just kind of buff it into the center of the forehead and then make sure the edges are kind of soft. I think it looks really pretty. And I think the coverage is really quite decent. You know what? I guess, you know, since I have my makeup on today, I think I'll do a little highlighter. But I'm going to do it with my fingers. So this is the Makeup by Mario, which is so, so pretty. And we'll just do a little something, something, like right here. That's quite lovely, and I think I'm going to contour my nose. So this one's really getting the test of other products. And the Clé de Peau in Sweet Song. There, I think it's all kind of pulled together very nicely, and the foundation performed very nicely with everything. I'm going to pull you in closer and you can see the really pretty effect it gets on the forehead, on the cheeks when I put powder. The creams worked well, powders worked well, it plays well with others. I also did my Lancome concealer, plays well with that, and I feel like this color is really, really nice for me. So this one is very, very promising. So I'll be back tomorrow and let you know how this went and have my final conclusions. Yeah, I'm not an expert with the curling iron, but this is the outro. So the Sephora. The Sephora wore beautifully all day long. I had a mask on for maybe 15 minutes, not a long time. It was quite warm, but because it was quite warm, I did absolutely nothing. But it looked fantastic. I think I took it off around 9 o'clock at night. I had no problem. I looked at the 10X or 8X, nothing over here, no settling, nothing around the nose. It just looked really beautiful, and it gave me better coverage than the other two. So I really like this. If you are on a budget and you want a solid foundation that will look really nice, and I have to say it really didn't have much shine going on, where usually because I start so shiny, I get a very shiny look, and yes, I did powder it, but oftentimes when I powder, it just kind of bleeds through. So I'm not sure how this will work if you have dry skin if you don't moisturize well. I moisturize well, and I didn't find it to be uncomfortable at all. So they say this is a perfect natural finish, and I think I pretty much agree. They say it's long wear, and it is, and I did find that it oxidized a little bit, even while I was doing the video. I haven't edited yet, so I don't know if I'll leave it in, but I'm looking in there going, does this kind of change colors a little bit? It looks a little bit darker, a little bit warmer, but it wasn't something that was egregious like some things I've tried. So I do like this very, very much. It builds well and it covers nicely. These two I'm going to put in the same category. While all of these products have some kind of cushiness to them, just like the Charlotte Tilbury, which is what I'm wearing today. These have that same kind of cushiness, but not to the same degree as that. And then by extension, the IT Cosmetics Even Better has like 5 times as much as that thickness. These two, to me, are very, 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 very similar. This is a lot more product than this. So if this is the kind of thing you're looking for, something comfortable, not a lot of coverage and not really buildable. But once you put the rest of your makeup on, it's fine. Then this is the way to go. They're all three really lovely. For me, this one for the win, 100%. Just because it's giving me more coverage and it's doing what a foundation should do. This is the winner, and these are perfectly, perfectly lovely. And that's going to wrap up today's video, you guys. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope you come back again. Until we meet again, be safe and smart, and I'm wishing you good health.